Should you collect Lorcana's infamous discard cards? Let's get into it. All right, let's get into this episode. Super excited to talk about this topic, but before we do, want to give a huge shout out to Taylor Woot, who was the winner of our first ever giveaway of the Enchanted Pride Lands. Huge shout out to you. It's been such a pleasure getting to connect with you, talk with you about Lorcana, and we're just so happy that you won that first giveaway. And for everybody who's wondering if you won our most recent giveaway of the Inklands Trove Box, that is now posted in the community tab. Go check and see if you won. All right, so let's get into today's topic, which is Lorcana Discard Cards. And before we start talking about the different types of discard cards, collectability, market value, all those different things, a lot of you might be asking, what are you even talking about? What are discard cards? And essentially what they are extra cards that have no business being in your packs of Lorcana, but somehow, some way, some of them do find their way into your packs. And essentially, at least to the best of my knowledge, the way that this happens is it will start out at the manufacturer that Ravensburger uses, and they'll go and start printing multiple different sheets of Lorcana cards, right? All of your commons, your uncommons, your legendaries, etc. However, as we know, with rarities, they need to print more or less of these commodities, so they don't necessarily print full sheets of these. It could be 2/3 of a sheet or 90% of a sheet, and there might be some extra cards left over that they just don't really need to do anything with those cards. Those are called discard cards, and they're labeled as such, and what the machine will do is it will pick up essentially the word discard. They'll find that logo, they'll find that word, and then they'll just toss them away essentially. They will discard them, which is why it has the word discard on them. So basically the way that they do this is after they pick up all these different cards, they'll then shoot all of the other cards into the packs. However, sometimes the machine doesn't pick up on that logo, and some of them will make their way into your different packs, etc. And to the best of my knowledge, from what we know right now, the different types of Lorcana discard cards would be the black regular logo, the black bold logo, the yellow regular logo, the white regular logo, and the black enchanted logo. There might be foil copies out there, and this is where I'd love for any of you in the comments section who have gotten these cards before. I have not. Most likely I'll start a different collection journey of trying to pick these up at some point in the future. But for those of you who have pulled them, and there even have been some of you who've reached out to us and let us know that you've pulled one out of like an Inklands Trove box, for example. I think we were talking about that in our most recent episode where we opened Inklands Trove boxes. If you haven't seen that video, go check that video out. I mean, really, they can come, as I understand, from anything from the first chapter through Inklands, can come anything through booster boxes, into troves, into blister packs, etc. The only real knowledge that I've picked up along the way is that essentially the regular discard cards and the bold discard cards, they wanted to make the bold discard word a little bit bigger so that the machine could pick up on it a little bit easier. But as we know, there's still bold discard cards out there in the wild somewhere. So I don't know if that really helped it more or less. Hard to know. But other than that, the only other thing that I've really been able to pick up on is I haven't seen or heard of many enchanted discard cards other than the first chapter. So when you talk about rarity, collectability, things like that, which we will get into, those are, of course, the absolute cream of the crop. And then finally, I really don't know this, so I don't want to make an opinion on this one way or the other. I have heard that there are foil, like cold foil in discard cards, but it's kind of hard to know that. Doing my research through secondary markets and through chat sites and things like that, I haven't really been able to pick up on that just based off of pictures. It's hard to know if it's cold foil or if it's regular. So anybody out there who has gotten a cold foil of a discard card, please let me know in the comment section, because I'd be super interested to know if that is a for sure thing, if that is real, or if it's not. So my thoughts on collectability of these cards, first and foremost, like, are they collectible, yes or no? My thoughts on this are essentially very, very black and white. It's very binary. You are either interested in something like this or you're not. At least that's what I found from speaking with my misprint collector friends in the community and things like that. I always find I get one or two paths. The first path that I'll get is they'll tell me, yes, I love the ability to be able to collect something so rare, so valuable, something that wasn't meant to make its way out there into the wild, and essentially it did. And I totally see that point of view. The other point of view that I'll get all the time is, no, I have no interest in collecting this. It doesn't affect the authenticity or the integrity of the actual game, hobby, TCG of Lorcana itself, so I want nothing to do with them. And that's fine too. But typically I find that it's one way or another. So if you are someone out there who is interested in collecting these different types of discard cards, essentially, once again, there's a couple of different paths that you can go. Taking it from the standpoint that there are regular and, of course, you know, that grail out there that is the enchanted that we'll talk about a little bit more. Just keeping it with the regular discard cards for now. Doing my research, I found that raw copies are going from anywhere from about $50 to $200 on the secondary market, and then your PSA 10s, 9s, things like that, that's kind of ranging a little bit more in the $300 to $500 mark. Really, it's just up to you. I mean, again, binary. I'm someone who always believes with misprint cards, which I do like to dabble in. I do see interest in them. I've always been someone who has found beauty in things being very unique, things being different, and being able to tell that story. I'll talk to so many of you who will say, hey, I pulled this card and then used it to pay for a vacation for my family, things like that. I will always say something along the lines of, that's an amazing pull and that's an amazing story. I'm always just as much interested in the story as I am in the actual asset itself. So I'm someone who's extremely interested in misprint cards and miscut cards and things like that. But for me, I would just care about having the actual raw card. I don't necessarily need it to be graded. Obviously, I don't want it to be like a mod heavy play card. I mean, it would be nice to be mint, near mint. Light play would be fine. I probably wouldn't go into the played, mod played, area of the spectrum. I would probably keep it to as close to near mint as I possibly can. But having that card, really just having that itself is enough for me. However, there are individual collectors out there who are very strict. They say, I only want to collect 10s of PSA, CGC, BGS. Totally understand that. Same thing with 9s. But if you are someone who's kind of thinking to themselves, which way should I go with this? My suggestion would be just to collect the raw copy of the card. That in and of itself tells a wonderful story. The one thing I would just say to be on the lookout for, and kind of just sort of have your antennas up as you're going and looking for these different cards. The only thing I found right now is that the white discard card is very interesting. From what I've seen, the black regular text, the black bold text, and the yellow regular text, they seem to be going for what I would consider to be very fair price, very fair market value for that commodity. The white card is very interesting. Now, I've seen and read that you can only get it in the first chapter. There aren't as many of those floating around out there. However, that doesn't mean that you're not going to find many other ones surface months, years later. So that card is going for such a higher premium right now. I'm seeing things like being listed and being sold for like high hundreds, even getting into the low thousands. So just be very wary of that card. I'm not saying don't get it, but just be very alert to that fact as you're looking to pick that up. If you're on the fence about maybe picking up the others, picking up that one, I would start with the other ones just because the price is so baseline right now that you just have a better point of entry into that market to being able to going and grabbing those for your collection. So I would just be on the lookout for that. And then the final card that we need to talk about is, of course, the Enchanted Discard Card. Now, this would be what I would consider right now as being the holy grail of misprint cards in Lorcana. And I don't know that that's going to change for some time. There are other cards that will jockey in the space against it. Cards like Ursula Storyborn, or right now we have an official confirmed misprint, which would be the Peter Pan enchanted from Into the Inklands that has like it's either the extra bracket or the extra period on it, I forget. But regardless, that is a known error where they made some that look like that, they made some that look regular, and so you're able to have a distinction between the two. as Lorcana goes and prints more of these, assuming that they do, assuming that they reprint Inklands, assuming that they create special edition sets or create, reprints, things like that, they're obviously going to correct that error. And then as time goes on, as more reprints happen, as more product gets out there in circulation, you're going to have something that becomes more and more and more special. Cards like that will jockey in the space against the discard enchanted rare. However, assuming, and I don't know this for sure, someone please let me know if I'm wrong, but assuming that Ravensburger corrected that error with the enchanted discards, there's going to be such a finite amount of them out there that I just don't ever see that not being the #1 misprint chase for collectors in the space. And that's reflected in the price. Research that I've done, I saw one months ago sell for around $4,000. I'm seeing, light play versions right now going for $10,000. Probably not actually what that's going for. I mean, realistically, if a seller was actually interested in selling, you would probably get in touch with them and they'd probably be willing to give it up for a little bit less, maybe willing to do a trade. I don't know. Everybody's different, of course, in the way that they want to acquire and buy and sell assets. But if you're talking about a graded variant of that, I mean, it's going to go for astronomical amounts that, I mean, truly is such a blurry market that it would be impossible for me to even really make a guess on it right now. The biggest thing I would say with these cards is just that for 99.9% of us, myself included, this is an asset that we will probably never get our hands on, just because we're so priced out, right? At some point, as much as we want to acquire different things, the dollar catches up with us all at some point, right? You say to yourself, well, I would like every enchanted rare. Okay. Well, then I would like every D23 promo. Okay. Well, then I want the misprint enchanted. Okay. Right. I mean, at some point you get to a place where you just kind of, you can't really buy, sell, acquire all of these different things, and you just have to make choices, and you just have to be smart with your budget and understand what are realistic goals that I can set out for right now to be able to acquire what I would like to in the immediate future. So as far as the enchanted discard goes, it's probably more of something to dream about than something to actually acquire, but that's okay. I mean, I think that's such fun with collecting, is that you can have things that you can dream about that are actually attainable, and then things that you can just dream about. And you know what? Maybe one day we will acquire that card, have it in our hands. And regardless, even if you don't, it's fun to know that it's out there. It's fun to have the knowledge, and it's fun to know a little bit something different about the hobby itself, which is why I thought it was so fun to do this episode today. All right, y'all, so that's going to do it for today's episode. If you enjoyed today's content, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you all so much for interacting with us in the comment section. We have had just the best time chatting with you all about different facets of Lorcana. Let us know about the discard cards, if you have seen them, if you own any of them, if you pulled any of them. Any details on those would be just so interesting for us, or anything else that you want to chat with us about, just drop us a line. We always love interacting with you. And until then, we'll see you all on the other side. Peace out.